So today on review, we've got the brand new Audio-Technica AT-LPA2 turntable. And this is the best turntable the company has ever released to the market, and it is now available in stores for £1,700 here in the UK. Well, I can only guess that what Audio-Technica set out to achieve here is transparent sound. Let's be real, that's exactly what a lot of vinyl lovers are after, right? I almost mistakenly called it a clear audio turntable when I first saw it online, but clearly this is an Audio-Technica product. Now, some of you might remember just a few years ago, Audio-Technica released a very similar looking turntable called the AT-LPA2, which was their 60th anniversary model. And at a glance, this new one looks almost identical. But is it actually the same? Let's find out. Now, as mentioned back in 2022, Audio-Technica, a brand that really needs no introduction, celebrated their 60th anniversary. I mean, everybody knows Audio-Technica, as their cartridges are some of the most popular in the world, and in fact it's probably safe to say that most vinyl lovers out there have owned an Audio-Technica product at some point in their audiophile journey. So to mark the 60th anniversary, they released a limited run of 3,000 pieces of pure acrylic turntables, the AT-LP2 It retailed at just over £1,000 and it was an instant hit. At that time here at Premium Sound we simply couldn't keep up with the demand and we had back orders piling up, and even well into this year people were still asking if we had any left. But because it was a limited edition, once they were gone, that was it. So we had to turn people away, which was a real shame, but we've obviously got some good news now, as Audio-Technica clearly listened to the demand, and that's why we've got this new release now, the AT-LPA2. Now, at first glance, you might not spot any differences between the limited edition AT-LP2 and this AT-LPA2, as they look nearly identical. So we had to dig into the specs to find out what's actually changed. The first thing that stood out was the weight of the turntable. The LPA2 is nearly half a kilogram heavier than the anniversary model. Visually, they might look the same, but the extra weight is no coincidence. The most notable difference is the platter. On the new LPA2, the platter is 20 mm thick compared to the 16 mm on the LP2. That increase in thickness means that there is more effective mass, which helps to reduce vibration and improve the overall stability. So while it might not look radically different, the performance gains are very real. The other big difference, and this is where it's really worth pausing at for the moment, is the cartridge, because this is what truly starts to justify the increased price of the LPA2. Now, the limited edition LP2 came fitted with the VM95SH moving magnet cartridge, which is a solid performer and sells for around £150. But with the LPA2, Audio-Technica have stepped things up, as it comes fitted with a much more advanced moving coil cartridge, the AT-OC9XEN. This one typically retails for over £300, and it brings a noticeable leap in resolution, detail retrieval, and overall sound quality. So right there, you've got a serious upgrade in the cartridge alone, which already accounts for a big chunk of the price difference. So how good is the cartridge? Well, it's a nude elliptical, and honestly, it's a really solid performer. It sits a step above Audio-Technica's very entry-level MC cartridge, so you're already getting something a bit more refined straight out of the box. Now, if you look at the price breakdown, the cartridge makes up about a fifth of the turntable's total cost. And that ratio makes a lot of sense. The cartridge is where everything begins in the signal chain, and it can often be the bottleneck of an otherwise great setup. But in this case, I had it playing for a few days, did some listening, and I've got to say it sounded really good straight out of the box. Of course, judging a turntable purely on sound is always tricky. You've got many variables, the amp, the speakers, the phono stage, the cabling of course, but overall the sound presentation here is exactly what I'd expect from something in this price bracket. One thing to keep in mind, because it's an MC cartridge, the stylus here isn't replaceable, so be careful while playing this turntable. But to be fair, most people buying this deck probably wouldn't feel the need to upgrade the cartridge anytime soon anyway. Well, but if you ever do want to swap it out, I'd say to try and pick something that visually complements this wonderful turntable, because you probably don't want a bright red cartridge or an orange cartridge on that wonderful acrylic base. Another nice touch is that the cartridge sits on a replaceable headshell. It is right here, which is actually different from what we saw on the first generation acrylic model. This new headshell is made of metal, not plastic, and it's a more modern design too, as it features a curved lift arm that fits nicely in the finger, making it more ergonomic when you're trying to cue up a record. And of course, having a replaceable headshell is super convenient, especially if you're someone who likes to swap between different cartridges, as this makes it so much easier to change up your setup without having to remount and align everything from scratch. In my opinion, the biggest upgrade between the first generation limited edition Audio-Technica turntable and this new model is the addition of a separate power supply, which is also a speed control box. So the motor is now powered directly by this external unit, and that's a pretty big deal because it wasn't like that on the previous model. By moving the power supply out of the main chassis, you're effectively reducing electrical noise within the system. That kind of noise can absolutely impact sound quality, especially in more sensitive setups. So by housing it in a separate box, you are removing potential source of interference, and that's something we typically see in higher-end audiophile-grade turntables. In fact, some manufacturers even sell this kind of upgrade separately for a premium, so the fact that it's included here, right from the start, is really no surprise, but definitely welcome. Now, speaking of the turntable itself, this thing is a statement piece. Everything about it looks and feels premium, from materials to the finish, and I'm pretty sure that as soon as you set it up in your living room, it's going to turn heads and your guests will be asking you about it. I think this turntable would slot in nicely with pretty much any kind of setup, whether you've got a sleek black amplifier or something more bold and high-end like a Macintosh, for example, with those classic blue meters and green LEDs. It's just this kind of versatile, modern aesthetic that manages to stand out without chasing the rest of your gear. Now, in terms of design, this is a belt drive turntable, which is actually a bit of a shift for Audio-Technica, as most of their turntables, especially in the mainstream lineup, are direct drive. But at this level, going with a belt drive system makes a lot of sense, because it helps to isolate the platter from motor vibrations, which ultimately leads to better sound. So while it might be a departure from what you normally expect from an Audio-Technica, it's exactly what you'd want in a turntable at this price point. It's also worth noting that this is a fully manual turntable, so there is no automatic or semi-automatic functionality like you might find in some entry-level models. You'll obviously need to place the Tonearm yourself and return it when the record finishes, but this is of course part of the charm. The turntable comes equipped with a 9-inch silver carbon fiber Tonearm, designed in-house by Audio-Technica specifically for this model, and to me it really looks and feels like a high-end Tonearm. You control it with a metal cueing lever, which gives it a smooth and precise lift, which is located here on the side. And there's also an adjustable lifting arm height, so it's also here on the other side, which is handy if you're using a cartridge with a different body height, which lets you dial in the perfect position. And of course, you've got the VTA adjustment, the vertical tracking angle. You can raise or lower the entire Tonearm assembly on this turntable. Now, some people prefer this kind of fine-tuning because even slight changes can affect the sound. For example, applying a bit more pressure can subtly shift the low-end response, but in any case, it's a great feature, and if you'd like to tweak your setup to really get it sounding right, you can do it by basically adjusting the screw here on the side of the turntable. Now, the anti-skate, which is just here, uses a hanging weight, which is a bit of a classic touch at this level of gear. And unlike some of Audio-Technica's other models, where it's just an integrated dial, this setup is fully visible, as you can see. And it's a really nice detail. You can actually see the weight in action as it lifts slightly when the Tonearm moves, which adds to that satisfying hands-on feel of using a high-end manual deck. The counterweight on this Tonearm is pretty standard, so nothing out of ordinary here. here, but what's great is that Audio-Technica actually includes a second, heavier counterweight straight out of the box. That's especially useful if you're planning to use a cartridge that's a bit heavier than average or has different tracking requirements. It gives you more flexibility without needing to buy any extra parts later on, which is always a nice touch at this level of gear. The feet on the turntable also look solid and sturdy, and as you'd expect at this level, they're fully adjustable. That means you can easily level the deck on uneven surfaces, which is essential for getting the best performance. As for the other accessories, you also get a dust cover. It's just here at the back, which is a really nice addition, especially considering that not all turntables these days include one. And on top of that, you also get a metal adapter included for your 45 RPM records, so you're pretty much covered here straight out of the box. So overall, what can I say? This is a seriously solid turntable. It is absolutely beautifully made, and honestly, there is nothing quite like it on the market right now, especially at this price point. Audio-Technica have clearly poured all of their experience and attention into developing this model, and I have no doubt it's going to be a big success for them. Considering the quality of the cartridge, the inclusion of the external power supply, and just the overall aesthetic and build, I think this turntable offers a great value for money. It also shows that Audio-Technica is clearly moving up into the high-end space, as for years their turntables have been seen more as an entry-level product. But this new release marks a clear step forward both in design and performance. As you'd expect at this level, there is no built-in phono preamp, so make sure you've got an MC-compatible phono stage, a separate one or a built-in one, as you'll definitely need one to run this deck properly. This turntable is available for demonstration at our Premium Sound store here in London, and we'd be more than happy to walk you through it in person. That's it for this review. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll also leave a link in the description with more info and full specs available on our website. Now, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content coming up your way soon, and thank you very much.